So Ableton have sent us at RouteNote the Ableton Move, one of their newest hardware standalone pieces of kit. And I have been tasked with reviewing it and I can't wait. So this is the Ableton Move. This is their first, as far as I know, standalone product. I have a push at home. I have been using it a lot, and so I'm really excited to start using this piece of equipment. Give me a few weeks, maybe even months, because I think there's going to be a lot to learn with this. And I will let you guys know how I get on, and I will take you along for the ride. So watch this space and see you in a bit. Really good start here. So gonna need to make sure to charge that. So I have just discovered that it actually has a speaker and I don't have to use headphones, so I can show you some guys and things. Okay, so this is super duper cool. So as you're moving through, you can preview the sounds that you are hearing, which is a godsend, so you don't have to load them up each time. Got a great little housey synth here. So yeah, big fan. I found the dub siren, guys. Found the best gabba kick in the world. Please excuse the homemade camera stand, but here's a drum kit that they've already got preloaded, which I discovered really quickly into sort of exploring my way around things, and the pads are so nice to play with. And yeah, it's really intuitive to use, and I came up with a little sort of hip-hoppy beat. So I'm on holiday and I have a spare 20 minutes or so I'm going to give a shot at making my own set from scratch. So I'll let you know how it goes. Hey, I'm Zoe from RouteNote, and the team at Ableton have sent us one of their newest products, which is the Ableton Move. I have been a user of Ableton for a fair few years now, and I heard about this release, and it was super cool that they've released something that's completely standalone as a piece of hardware, rather than something that relies on MIDI to operate. So first of all, I love the size. It's thin, it's compact. You can fit it in your rucksack. You can take it with you on the bus. And the other thing that I love is that it doesn't need to be connected to a power source in order for this to work. It's battery powered. The battery power does actually last quite a good amount of time. So it means that you don't have to worry about faffing around with loads of cables if you want to have a go on it. The next thing that did slightly bother me was I am right-handed, and the main dial and the screen are on the left-hand side. So naturally I find myself leaning over sometimes. I would have preferred it on the right-hand side, but potentially that's just my bias because I'm a right-handed person. I also would have slightly preferred a larger screen. I'm used to using an Ableton Push, which has a much larger screen on it. However, the functionality that they have added to this very small screen here, I think is amazing. And they've done a really good job at getting the most out of that really small space. The one thing as well that I found out by accident is it actually has a built-in speaker, which means you don't have to worry about plugging it in, getting everything sorted. You can just play it out loud if you want to. The one thing that Ableton have also exceeded themselves with is how many sounds they've managed to include on this thing. There are so many drum kits, there are so many synths, there are so many ARPs, there are so many different sounds that I could never even begin to think about using all of these. They're incredibly varied as well. You can use these for so many different genres, and hopefully I can show you guys a few of them as we go through this video. The other thing that Ableton have also been aware of is that this thing is kind of complicated to get your head around, which is fine, but you do need a bit of time in order to be able to understand everything that it can do. And the one thing that they have included are these demos here. These are demos tracks. These are ones that I have made myself. And these are incredibly helpful at being able to open and see exactly what's going into each of these things. I can choose to edit any of these as well if I wanted, and I can go in and copy them, decide to maybe duplicate them, add my own things to them, and I think it's a really helpful way of introducing you to a really powerful piece of kit. So if you want a little taste of all the sounds that are on here that you can use, here's just a little run through of some of the drum kits that they have. So actually using it, what I love here are these parameter knobs up here, and even before I've turned any of them, I just have to touch them and they'll show you what they are controlling at the top of the screen here. Incredibly helpful, a feature that is on my push as well, and you don't have to remember what each of these things do because it will tell you the minute that you touch it. One of my favorite things that I often don't utilize enough are sequences, and the one on here is so easy to use, really accessible. And here I've got my drum kit, kick, and along the bottom is your sequencer. So let's say I want 4 to the floor, kick here. Where's our hat? That's a nicer hat. Now I've got my kick down. I'm going to put a hat in every offbeat here. So here we have our kick and hi-hat, and let's say rather than using the sequencer along the bottom, I want to record my snare in manually. That sounds pretty good to me. If I want it fixed to the grid more, there's actually a quantize function on this machine, which I love. It's incredibly helpful. You can set how much you want that clip quantized as well. I come from sort of hip-hoppy roots and I'm a sucker for swing. And the one problem I have with quantizing drums is they often seem quite sterile, quite metronome-based. And one of the favorite things I discovered on here is the groove function. So what I just recorded, I can choose to add groove to. You might be able to hear the groove happening as I turn it up here. So this is groove at 130%. This is groove at... Then if you can hear that snare becomes more swung. Anyway, that sounds good to me. And the thing that Ableton also thought of is that people want to take what they've already recorded and then make variations of it. So they have a copy function. So I can take the drum loop that I've just played, copy it over, and now let's say we want to add some more elements to it. What have we got here? Let's say we want to add some extra percussion in. And there you go, got my 2 different drum loops that I've just created in like 1 minute. Let's move on to some melody. So here I have a simple piano sound. Another thing that Ableton thought of is how much delay and reverb is used in production, and what they have added on nearly every single one of these tracks is the ability to add whatever effect you would like to add, some touches of a button basically. Here are all the different effects that I can use to control the reverb along with the dry and wet. And that's practically the third option on the screen that I'm looking at right now. So I'm going to turn that reverb up more actually, because I kind of like the sound of it. One of the favorite things, again, that I discovered about this thing is the ARP function. So you can hear that I'm just playing the notes as is and they play once. However, the exciting addition with the ARP is that you can make your own arpeggiators with this, which I'm a sucker for arpeggiators. And this is what it sounds like. And if you're not really happy with it, you can change the different style of arpeggiator that you're using. So with our drums playing. And then here's another piano that I made earlier. So what you can do is you can actually record vocals into this, as well as using all the variety of instruments that are already built in. You can decide to use external audio. Here, there is actually an external audio source that you can plug straight into from your phone, for example. I absolutely hate using widgets with my phone, and I no longer have a phone with a headphone jack out. So I personally haven't used this yet. I would have preferred a 1/4-inch jack so that I could have, for example, used my bass in here or used my keyboard. However, I understand why they've decided to keep this small, and it's so as to keep this device really, really compact. So let's delete this piano scene sketch that I've done, and let's hear what we've got already. So I'm going to record that little vocal thing that I did there, and let's see how it sounds. I'm so alone. So we've still got the ARP there, that's why it sounds a bit weird. And you can change the transposition of this if you so wanted. And if it hasn't started at exactly the right point, you can change the start time of the samples that you've edited. That's if you want the negative lyrical version. So let's go back and let's reverse the recording that I just did. Or let's say it's too negative. You can actually go back and look at previous recordings that you've recorded. I don't actually know if any of these are going to be in key. So this was me just singing, going, but cutting it off after I started singing and before I'd finished singing. You get the gist. The one thing I do a lot with my work is I slice my vocals a lot. And that is possible to do on here using a drum rack. However, unfortunately, the way that you have to record it to slice it, you capture the knocks of you stopping the recording. I'll give you an example. Hold me to the sea. Hold me. As you can hear, there's those clicks there. So I could maybe like try and touch the pad really gently. You can edit the start time. However, I'm still unable to find the option to change the end timing of that sample, because then you could cut off those cuts that you're getting. There is a piece of software that works with the Move online, where you can upload your own samples to the cloud and then you can access them on your Ableton Move, which is a great idea. I unfortunately haven't had time to use this. I'm also the sort of person where I'd rather have my samples here, then and now, rather than sort of pre-thinking about downloading them onto my device or uploading them and that sort of stuff. That's just how I work in my music making. However, the sampling capabilities for something this small, I think, are fantastic, despite all of my criticisms. The one thing I also couldn't get to work, unfortunately, I'm not sure if it was user error, there is a way when you are finished to be able to upload these ideas, these sketches to Ableton Cloud so that you can download them instantly to your computer. So you don't have to worry about plugging in, you don't have to worry about all that faff. It's completely wireless. As I said, unfortunately, I couldn't get it to work. I got a few error messages. However, if I do end up purchasing one of these, I'll definitely try and troubleshoot that, because it's a very, very easy, hands-free way of getting your sketches down, getting your ideas down quickly, and then being able to seamlessly drag and drop them into Ableton to continue your work on them. So, conclusion time from a Ableton user. I think this is fantastic. It's incredibly powerful. The amount of sounds you can make with it, the amount of sketches you can make with it, and the functionality that's built into something this small, that's hands-free, I think is fantastic. You can go anywhere, you can go on the bus, you can go in your room, you can do it in your living room, you can do it at your friend's house. It's so portable, and I think that's something that music producers struggle with, is trying to keep music making accessible to our sort of everyday lives and traveling and going around and stuff. So I think that's fantastic. For me, I'm very sample-based, sample-orientated producer. And whilst the sampling capabilities of this have exceeded my expectations, I feel like I may have to sacrifice a few quick tricks that I use if I were to use this on the regular. However, to get sketches down quickly, easily, I think this is amazing. And recently I've started doing more accessible, more popular style music where I can't use samples. For something like that, this could be a game changer for me. So thanks, Ableton, for letting us mess around with it. Very impressed. My push that I use for performing live is on its last legs, and I would love to explore also the different kind of live capabilities that this has, because in my experimentation you can also use it as a MIDI controller, and that's something that I'm really excited about. So in short, it's a big thumbs up from us at RouteNote. And if you have the option to get one purely for the ease and accessibility of having a hands-on way of making music, it's a goer.